Hey, what's up? This is Scott with Level Up Tutorials, and in this video, we're going to be starting to really create the folder and file structure of our project. Now, we're not going to be writing any code just yet, but I'm going to be sort of talking about the importance of file structure and different ways that you can lay out your project to find what best suits you. So let's get into that right now. Now, one of my favorite things about Meteor has always been just its extreme flexibility in things like file structure and things like that. It just really lets you do everything the way you want to do it. And the best part is you don't even necessarily have to define things and define paths and things like that. And Meteor will just sort of handle it in its build process, allowing you to really be flexible and change your approach when needed. So to get started in our project structure, I'm going to first create some folders inside of our main folder here. I'm just going to go ahead and select a new folder, and the folder I'm going to add is client. Now, what's cool about the client folder, if you recall in any Meteor.js file that's initially created, we have the if Meteor is client, and then we have the if Meteor is server. Well, you can just sort of forget about those for right now. Don't necessarily forget about them, but anything that you have inside of your client folder with the name client, for instance, let's create a file. Let's just name this index.js. We're going to change all this stuff around a bunch. And let's copy everything out of here. For our Meteor is client, and just straight up delete that. Head over to our index, paste it in here. I'm going to tab it back a little bit. There we go. Okay, so here we have this file. We never actually said if Meteor is client, but it's inside of our client folder. Now, if we head back to our website, you'll notice, hey, this thing still works. It's not broken. If we inspect our page, there's no anything except for maybe a routing error just because we don't have any routes set up yet. But other than that, it's totally fine with it. Meteor sees that it's in the client folder, and it knows that this is part of the client side code. Now, in addition, we can also have a new folder, and we can name this one server. And just likewise, we could put all of our server events inside of the server folder as well. Now, I'm going to get started with some sort of just basic Groundworks files, even if we don't have any code that we're going to be using. For instance, inside of our server, I'm going to make a file that I like to have called init.js. Now, init.js is going to contain some code that I just paste in here. And now, this is meteor.startup, and then it's just simply a function. This allows you to run any code on your server when Meteor starts up. I like to have this file in pretty much any project I'm starting, just in case I need it. For whenever I need it, it exists. Now, in addition, I want to create a publish file in here. If you recall at the end of the basic series, we wanted to publish the collections that we actually use. So to do that, I'm just going to have publish.js. Now, this will be populated with our publish code once we need that, but for now it's just nice to have it. And normally I would also have a methods.js in here, but for this example I'm actually going to put our collections methods inside of a collection folder. Now, you don't have to do this. You can keep all that stuff in your server folder, but this is just the way that I like to set up my project, especially if I'm using simple schema and collections too. Now let's make a new folder, and it's going to be named collections. Okay. Now, once we make our collections, we'll be putting that in its own file here, and I like to name those files the same name as whatever the collection is. For instance, we're going to have a collection named recipes, so I would have a file recipes.js. Now, I'm not going to do that in this video. When we start to outline how we can create our collections with simple schema in the next video, we'll get into that then. Okay, next we have inside of our client folder, we just made this index.js, and that's okay. I mean, you can also, one thing I also like to do is frequently have an init.js in here with the same sort of on startup code. Now, this is where people's ideas about how to lay your project may differ. For one, I like to sort of have several different folders in here, one of which is going to be a layouts folder. Now, layouts will contain not only the HTML that have to do with our layouts, but also the JavaScript files will be going in here as well. And the files will be named obviously the same as what the layout is. Since we're going to be using a router, we're also going to be using Blaze layouts, which allows you to define a specific layout file per your routes. And it allows you to even have some additional yield options too, of which we may or may not get into. Now, right now, we're going to add another folder, and this is just going to be partials. Now, in partials, I like to typically have things like my header and my footer, items that are essentially going to be used throughout the site. That way you can easily drop them into your layouts. Now, in addition, I'm going to have folders per feature. This is sort of a feature folder organization technique that has become popular, really, where you keep each feature or component together. For instance, since we're doing a recipe app, I want to keep all recipe related templates and all JavaScript referencing those templates inside of a folder called recipes. So this is just the way I like to lay out my client folder. You might find yourself doing something completely different. But what I recommend doing is checking out some large Meteor projects on GitHub, seeing how their projects are structured, seeing what that means for you personally and how you like to structure your projects, and really just what makes the most sense. As long as you have your client folder in here, all of this code is going to work without the if is client part of your code. Now, in addition, I also like to rename this intermediate.html file. I like to rename this file at the very base just to be index.html. It lets me know that this is sort of the root file for the whole project. In addition, I like to rename this to styles. And in this case, it's .styl because we're using stylus. But these are just sort of conventions that I've grown used to from building websites for a long time, and really I'm just used to looking for those things. Cool, so this is the basic project structure for our project. In the next lesson, we're going to start going over collections 2 and how you can build a schema using simple schema. And that schema is going to be used to generate a form using AutoForm. Now, it all works very nicely together in a way that just takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. So I can't wait to go over all that stuff in the next few videos. As always, this is Scott with Level Up Tutorials. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment in the video or hit me up at Twitter or Facebook at Level Up Tutorials. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.